Well, that was a little bit heavy. Uh, I can't promise that it's going to be a lot less heavy going forward, but there are lots of more lighthearted things that I want to talk about. But for now, I want to move on chronologically in my life a little bit. So, as has been previously stated, there were a lot of ups and downs in high school for me. I did really well some semesters and really poorly other semesters, and I got a lot of that. I got a lot of you're so smart, you should be doing better. I Part of the problem was that I'm a really good test taker, and I also seem to have a knack, or I at least had a knack for getting teachers to like me, and that could get me a long way without me actually having to do any work, but it was always kind of precarious. All right, so right after high school, I go to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign to study linguistics and computer science. Yeah, the workload was too much. Also, there were lots of other psychological things happening. I had never lived on my own before, and I was really struggling to figure out like how to be an adult. I had like no friends there. Like I tried to I made some attempts to make friends, but I always felt awful. Like it's really hard to be like it's really hard to make time for making friends when you're doing poorly in all of your classes. I was packed with just a ton of other people in this dorm. It's shocking that I ever found any quiet spaces to record on that campus. I would sneak into buildings at night that had been left unlocked. I would sneak into unused classrooms in the middle of the night that no one had locked up, and I recorded some of my videos in there. Like this would have been around the time I was making those videos. Like, what even is a syllable? What even is a word? What even is a language? This was when I was making those videos, and I made a lot of videos at the time because, like I said, like my kind of like identity was kind of wrapped up in videos. And I remember just kind of thinking to myself at the time, like, it doesn't matter what I do for a living as long as I get to make YouTube videos. Like, as long as I can pay the bills and make YouTube videos, like, those don't even need to be the same thing. If I can just have YouTube videos on the side, like, I just want, like, making YouTube videos is what I want to do with my life. And I also felt like I had kind of a responsibility to my audience to make videos. And I'm not sure that the YouTube videos interfered with school exactly. I think I would have found other ways to blow my time. In fact, I did find other ways to blow my time. I watched a bunch of dumb cartoons online. Uh, I actually have a lot of really good memories of. I got into Steven Universe for the first time in college at Illinois. I watched the Lizzie Bennett Diaries in Illinois. I I think I got into Skyrim while I was in Illinois. That ate my life for a few months. So it wasn't just videos that was eating up my time, but I was not putting in very much effort at all into my classes. And I couldn't just skate by the way I did in high school. And it's shocking to me that they didn't kick me out after the first semester. They had some really strict rules about, like, if you don't meet these grades, we're going to kick you out. And after the first semester, they were like, hey, we're going to give you another chance. And I was like, why? I mean, okay, but sure. And I went back and I think I did slightly better, but I was still way under their bar. And they sent me the letter like, hey, we're kicking you out now. And I was like, fair, honestly. And I went back and I moved in with my parents. And the year after that was the year this would have been fall of 2015, spring of 2016. That year, fall of 2015, spring of 2016, I was 19, and that was a year of like a whole bunch of plans that didn't really go anywhere. I spent a while with some friends of mine from high school. We were all planning on like going and moving to Golden together. Golden is a town near Denver, and we were all going to move to Golden together, or possibly Broomfield or something. But we were all going to get an apartment together. Those plans kind of fell apart for a lot of reasons. And after that, I wasn't really sure what to do. I tried for a little while to get a job, but eventually, like, I don't know, in like March or something, I was like, I need to go back to school, don't I? Like, I had been working on myself a lot. Those months I had been trying really hard. This is kind of why I'm talking about this whole period, because I graduated high school in 2014. It's been 5.5 years. Does that add up? 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yep. I graduated high school in 2014. It's been 5.5 years since that happened. In that 5.5 years, I've been going back and forth doing a lot. I've been in and out of college. By the way, my family is kind of rich. Like, my dad doesn't like it when I say that. And he certainly doesn't like me talking about how rich exactly we are. It's not very, but I am kind of comfortable saying that we're rich. He prefers to say that we're like middle class, but I've dropped out of college twice. And I'm probably gonna graduate college anyway without any debt. Like, I don't know anyone who that's true for. Like, I don't... Not, like, my life hasn't been great the past 5 years, but it's a lot better than it would have been if I were in a different position. So, like, I wanted to be clear that I am aware of that. Like, honestly, I think that's a big reason why I made the Xidnaf videos and no one else did. I don't think anyone would have been spending time making these videos while failing college if failing college wasn't like failing college was never a really big threat to my, not just my survival, but like my standard of living. Like, I always had a very comfortable safety net, and maybe that's part of the reason why I never did that well at college, because I always knew I could fall back on my family. But like, I have since learned that like most of the people who try to go to college wind up dropping out. Like, I've since realized that my story of dropping out of college, of it being too much for me, is not unusual at all. So I don't know. The point is, I don't want to brag, but I want to acknowledge that I come from this position of moderate wealth and move on quickly from there, because I want to come back to that eventually for a few reasons. But for now, the point is that for the past 5.5 years, I have been constantly trying to improve myself. I have been constantly trying this and that to fix things, and it's hard because there's no one thing that's wrong, you know? I didn't drop out of school because I procrastinated a lot. I didn't drop out of school just... I wasn't failing all of my classes just because I was procrastinating all the time. I didn't fail all my classes just because I couldn't keep a consistent sleep schedule. I didn't fail all of my classes just because I struggled with like asking anybody for help when I needed it. I didn't fail all of my classes just because it was really, really hard for me to pull myself away from social media and from YouTube and from Tumblr. It was all of those things at once. And any of them alone is really difficult to fix. And fixing them all at once has been very difficult. The past 5.5 years, I've been constantly trying to fix all of those things. And somewhat fitfully, with a lot of setbacks, I have been improving at like all of it. Like, I failed all my classes when I was 18. When I was 19, I was basically a bum living with my parents. When I was 20, the first half of that year, my birthday is in the summer, if you hadn't figured that out. The first half of that year for me, I went back to college, this time at Denver Metro. This was the beginning of me living in Denver, by the way. I've been, ever since fall of 2016, I've been living in this apartment with my sibling. We've both been going to college. Yeah, we've both been in Denver ever since. And we don't have to pay for the apartment because, again, rich family. Sorry, it keeps coming up. It touches on a lot of things in my life. I'm not ashamed of this, but like I'm sad that like everyone doesn't have the opportunities I have, because like it's this ridiculous luxury that I have, like housing and the opportunity for education. And like the fact that that's such a ridiculous luxury in our society is appalling to me. Anyway, I went back to school to study computer science, and it took me about a semester to realize that I hate computer science. So at the end of 2016, at the end of that semester, I was like, what do I want to do with my life? And I started kind of running some numbers, and I figured out that like I probably could, if I wanted to, make a career out of my YouTube channel, or at least for a little while. And so I tried doing that, and I basically tried doing that for like all of 2017. And I wish I had given up on it a lot sooner. I really, really wish I had given up on that sooner, because it wasn't working, and it was clear it wasn't working from really early on. And for this whole time, I was still basically just a bum living off my parents' money, except, like, yeah, except I was sharing an apartment with my sibling in Denver now. And I did a lot of my best work in that year. I did a lot of my best work in 2017. I made my video about our languages getting simpler over time. That's possibly my favorite video that I've done. Yeah, my 2017 videos I really like. But I should have made like 24 videos that year. And I think I made like 5 or something. Like if I had managed to make 24 videos, then I would have been getting enough from, like, I would have easily had enough to live on. But I was basically trying to be self-employed, and I had done well in school. Like, I did my first attempt at school when I was 18, fresh out of high school. I failed all my classes. My second attempt in fall of 2016, when I studied computer science, that attempt went a lot better. I didn't do great, but I was passing everything. I was learning a lot. I think I got mostly B's or something. I was doing okay that semester. And so I thought that I was basically more or less fixed, and that I could, and that like, now that I've done that, it's realistic for me to try to make my videos. But without the structure of school, that is much more difficult. It's really, really hard to be your own boss and to decide for yourself how much work is enough. And it takes a lot of self-discipline, and that is not something I've had. I should have given up on that very quickly, but I didn't, because it was always just within my grasp. It was always right there. It was always like, if I just put in the effort, if I just put in the time, it was always possible in theory, but I could never make myself do it. And it took me a year to realize that before I gave up on that. So now we've rolled around to spring of 2018, and I decide I don't want to go back to college because I still don't know what I want to do with my life. And it feels awful to me, at this point in my life, the prospect of signing up for a major and like deciding what I want to do with my life. I had never had a job. I had never had a job a real job at this point. I had been trying to be self-employed for a year, but it hadn't been working. I had never like worked for someone else. Like, almost everyone I know almost everyone I knew had already had a job at some point. So I decided I'm going to try to find a job. I'm gonna try to, like, I want to be financially independent. Like, I really wanted to be financially independent. I wanted to just like be my own person and just kind of exist in the world for a little bit. And turns out being unemployed is pretty similar to being self-employed. Like, being unemployed, looking for jobs is kind of its own full-time job. It's hard and it takes a lot of effort. Like, job application forms, turns out, are a lot like applying to colleges. Like, it goes on forever. it's really time consuming. There's loads of jobs out there, but almost all of them are going to reject you. So I did terribly at being actually self-employed. So I was also terrible at being unemployed. And after 6 months of looking for, I think a bit more than 6 months, I don't even know how normal that is. I don't know if 6 months is a long time or not that much time at all, but at the time, it felt like forever. After 6 months of looking for a job, I finally got hired by Walmart, and I worked there for a week, and then I quit. A week plus training. There was 3 days of training, and then I worked there for 5 actual work days, and then I quit because I had been told, don't work for Walmart. It's awful. I had been told how utterly awful Walmart is, but I don't know. I wouldn't say I didn't believe it, but the things that were bad about it were things that I didn't really get. Like, the things that made me leave it were things that I didn't really understand from people's warnings. I'm not going to go into the specifics. I don't want to get sued for slander or something, but man, I really, really hated working there, and I think it was largely because it's kind of designed to like squeeze as much productivity out of you as possible, and they set up a system where it's impossible to relax. They set up a system where it's impossible to feel like you're doing enough. They set up a system where you're always supposed to feel like you should be pushing a little harder, trying a little harder, working a little harder, a little faster. And they set up a system where, and like, I've been talking this whole time about how this feeling that I'm not doing enough, that I should be trying more, I should be putting in more. I've had this feeling since, like, basically ever since middle school, basically. So you'd think I would be well prepared for that, but the thing is, I always coped with that. I've always coped with that by thinking about something else, by going on YouTube and watching YouTube videos that make me think about anything besides the things that I should be doing right now. Walmart does not let you distract yourself. It makes sure that you're always thinking about how you should be working harder, going faster. And I couldn't handle that. Like, I gotta say, it's a lot better than a lot of other jobs. Thought Slime did a video about his fast food job, and his video about that was just utterly hellish. I would, after that video, like, my Walmart job was so much better than that job. But it left me with kind of the same feeling that he did. Trigger warning for suicide discussion, I guess, because I'm gonna get into that a little bit. I've never made like an attempt to commit suicide, but I've thought about it a lot. And when I was at Walmart, like, after 5 days of that, I started thinking that, like, my mind was playing tricks on me, actually. Like, some weird things happened, and I started to think that, like, I actually got really scared, because it kind of felt like my mind was deteriorating a little bit. And that, on top of the fact that I was thinking about killing myself, like, constantly, like, I was at that job, like, I started honestly getting really scared that if I didn't quit, one day I was going to jump in front of a bus to avoid having to go to Walmart, to avoid having to go to my job. So that's fun. So, to this day, that's the only job I've had. I worked at Walmart for a week. That's all the work experience I have in my life. I am not proud of that at all. I am a spoiled rich kid. I am glad that I know what that's like. I'll say that much. And once I got through that, at first I was like, I need to find a different job. But after thinking about it for a little bit, I was like, my parents are still willing to fund me going to college. Like, I could go back if I wanted to. I could go back to college if I wanted to. But my parents are going to die. Our money's going to run out eventually. like, we're rich, but we're not that rich. Like, I can go to college. We're rich enough that I can go to college now, but we're not rich enough that I'm sure that I could always go to college whenever I want. So I decided it doesn't even really matter what degree I have. After spending 6 months unemployed looking for a job, I was like, it would be really, really useful to have a degree. It almost doesn't matter what. Like, I should get a degree while I can. And so I went back, and this time I was like, it doesn't really matter what. Something I'm interested in. History. I really like history. A lot of you are probably thinking, what about linguistics? Linguistics is awesome, but actually, time for a little story. Do you guys know why I started this channel? Not this channel, but like the linguistics channel, the main channel, Xidnaf. Do you guys know why I started that channel? Because I was 16 years old, and I was reading about Proto-Indo-European, about the language which is the common ancestor of almost all of the languages in Europe, and most of the languages of India and Iran. I was reading about the common ancestor of all of those languages, Proto-Indo-European, and I was reading about how we've reconstructed it really precisely at this point. We figured out so much of its vocabulary. We figured out so much about its phonology. People have even written samples of Proto-Indo-European. And I was like, I wonder what it sounds like. What does Proto-Indo-European sound like? And so I went and I started to type into YouTube spoken sample of Proto-Indo-European, and it auto-completed. Like, spoken sample of it auto-completed Proto-Indo-European. It gave me the sense that, like, lots of other people are searching for this. Lots of other people are just like me and want to know what a spoken sample of Proto-Indo-European sounds like. So I search it, expecting that loads of other people will have done this, and there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. This was my junior, this would have been fall of my junior year of high school, so this would have been in 2012, I think. I think this would have been in 2012. So, in internet terms, this was forever ago. And I was just like, there's nothing on YouTube. There's no spoken sample of Proto-Indo-European on YouTube. Why? This would be so easy to make. Like, there's so much information out there for free about what Proto-Indo-European phonology was like. There's written samples of it. Just read it. Just get a written sample of Proto-Indo-European and read it. It wouldn't be hard at all. Like, it would be so easy I could do it. And then the gears started turning in my head, and I was like, this is so easy I could do it. Other people are searching for this. I could do it. It was like there was a vacuum in the market on YouTube, and I was being sucked in against my will. Like, I love linguistics. I've loved learning about linguistics. It's fascinating, but a huge part of the reason is just, like, there weren't people in 2012 and 2013, there weren't people making videos about linguistics on YouTube yet. And I felt like I could, so I did. And so I made this video about Proto-Indo-European, and it gets a decent trickle of views, and I think, cool, that's out there, that's great. And I kind of go back to my life, and every now and then I check in on the views. We're not talking a lot of views, like people are stumbling across it at kind of a low constant rate, like a few views a day or something like that. But then, like, I don't know, a month or two after I post the video, it gets like 6,000 views in a day. And now for me that's nothing, but at the time that was insane. And I look online a little bit, I try to figure out, like, where the hell did all of you come from? And I eventually figured out that some, like, Polish version of Reddit posted my video, and it got really popular there. And I was like, huh. And that kind of made me realize that, like, lots of other, like, this is actually something lots of people want to watch. This isn't something that, like, a few nerds are interested in. This is, like, this there's a lot of people who think that this is cool. And then at one point, someone asked me online, like, someone messaged me and was like, hey, you should do a tutorial on how to pronounce all this yourself. And I was like, okay, so I did. I made that, and it started getting, it got a decent number of views. And at this point, I'm seriously thinking, like, no one else is making videos about linguistics. I could do this. Like, the tutorial was kind of this proof of concept of, like, I can make moderately interesting visuals. I can record my voice and put it out there. Like, I could do this if I wanted to. There's a market for it. People clearly would watch it. Like, it felt like I almost had to. So my early videos were heavily based on CGP Grey. My earlier videos, the stick figure didn't come until later. The stick figure, I think the stick figure first showed up in Types of Writing Systems, but I think it would have been a year later. I think it would have been a year later, in fall of 2013, during my senior year of high school, that I binge watched Extra Credits. Extra Credits is a fantastic YouTube show. It's about video games. I don't care about video games. I've played a few video games, but I've even really liked a few video games. Night in the Woods is amazing. But, like, video games isn't, like, a big part of my life. But these videos about just, like, the video game industry, like, the logistics of making a video game, like, how to finance video games, I was fascinated by all of it. Because they cared about it. The guys who made those videos, they did and still do really, really, really care about video games. And they were able to make these videos that made me care about it too. Their enthusiasm was infectious. And they became a huge stylistic influence on me. Like, you can see this really, really clear shift in my videos with the Types of Writing Systems video. The Types of Writing Systems video, I think that should be at, like, the beginning of 2014, if I'm remembering right. But the Types of Writing Systems video was the first, like, I took a completely different attitude towards illustrations. Like, I started drawing way, way more stuff. I was basically trying to I was trying to emulate Extra Credits, which wasn't the best idea since, like, I was just one person. They were a whole bunch of people. I didn't have nearly the time that they did to make the kind of illustrations they had. But I eventually managed to figure out how to make, like, a worse version of Extra Credits, but for linguistics, basically. Like, that's basically my channel. Extra Credits, but worse, and about linguistics. That's the premise of all of my linguistics videos. And over time, I basically developed my own style. And I think you can see it in other places. Like, I think I added intro music and outro music at the same time. That was lifted directly from Extra Credits. Like, stylistically, they're just a huge influence. And I gotta say, like, if any of you are thinking about making YouTube videos, like, there's no shame in ripping other people off, basically. Like, other people have said this, and I have found it to be true myself. You start out just copying other people, and then slowly, through experimentation, you find your own style. And that happened for me, and the people I was copying was, initially it was CGP Grey, and then eventually it was Extra Credits. And like, I think it's if anyone's seen my videos and Extra Credits' videos, I think this is going to be really clear to you. Like, I took a lot of inspiration. The way they draw abstract concepts in this as sort of almost physical objects, the way they associate certain patterns and colors with certain ideas for the purposes of a given video, like, that's all straight from them. Things are not like that today. Today, there's a lot more people making linguistics videos. Some of them started around the same time I did, pulled in by the same vacuum in the market that pulled me in. And I'm glad for that. I think my videos are better than all of theirs. But of course I do. I make my videos for me, basically. I'm always asking myself, what would I like? What kind of video would I like to see? So my videos are kind of tailored to people like me. So like, I'm really proud of my videos. Even though there's lots of other people making linguistics videos today, I still think I offered something there. But I also gotta acknowledge that like I was in a really, really particular set of circumstances that allowed me to do this. I had all of the right influences, and I had the right interests, and I was in the right place at the right time, and it's cliche, but it's true. Like if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be here. Like I was able to, like, my early videos are bad. I was able to practice over time and like get better over time, and by the time I was good, the market was still there, and I was able to kind of fill it to a large extent. But it's crazy looking back and thinking that like I was there before Lang Focus, before Native Lang, before I'm missing a bunch. Lang Focus, Native Lang, Lingspace? Lingspace still making videos? I haven't checked on them in a long time. All of them don't have particularly creative names. You're linguists. Do what I did. Throw some random sounds together and come up with something. Native Lang, Lang Focus, and Lingspace. Like, but yeah, I love all of those guys, and their videos are great. That was a really long tangent off of me just kind of trying to go over my life. I think when I go over that, it's pretty clear that I'm really interested in linguistics, but me making linguistics videos was always kind of a matter of circumstance. It was always just kind of that, like, no one else was making videos at the time, so I started. And I'm not saying that, like, now the market's all saturated, so I'm never going to make more linguistics videos. It's just that, like, now that all of these other people are making linguistics videos, I don't feel as pressing a need to make linguistics videos myself. Also, I'm glad I was able to stumble around and figure stuff out back before I was really competing against many other people in this weird linguistics YouTube niche. So I hope that makes it clear why it's been a long time since I was considering going into a career for linguistics, because I'm interested in it, but I'm interested in loads of things. So I basically decided to major in history in fall of 2018. And around spring of 2019, this past spring, I start seriously thinking, what if I was a teacher? Because people have told me you'd make a really good teacher. I kind of am a teacher with my videos. It's a very different thing from actually teaching in a school system. But over the past few months, I've been looking into it more and more. My career plans have gone all over the place the past 5 years. I have many times thought I knew exactly what I was going to do with my life, and then that didn't happen. This might end up exactly the same way, but my current plan is to do at the University of Denver, at the Metropolitan State University of Denver. They have a course that's like history major plus teaching licensure thing. Current plan is to do that, because I like talking. I like talking about things I'm interested in. And I'm really interested in history. I'm really interested in most social studies. And I think I'd be good at it. For a long time, I resisted the idea of being a teacher because... never mind. Scrap all of that. I'm going to edit all of that out.